is going on, YouTube universe? My name is Trent and welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, the channel where we discuss everything Australian rules football. And with round 22 kicking off later tonight, it is that time again, ladies and gentlemen. What time? It is time to get our tips in. And that's probably something I haven't heard that in a while, let me tell you right now. But before we get our tips in for round 22, it is time to take personal reflection on the tips that went down in round 21. And I actually bounced back quite impressively. I got 6 out of 9. Hey. And those 6 could have very well been a 7 or an 8. It actually could have been an 8 had I just stuck to my gut. And played with my head a little bit more than my heart, I feel, because the first game we tipped correctly, even though we only went by the way of 17 points. We tipped the Bulldogs over Melbourne, and that happened quite convincingly. I then stated after tipping the Gold Coast that West Coast have been a different beast at home, still tipped against them, and shouldn't have because they defeated the Gold Coast. I then tipped Richmond, thinking there was some glimmer of hope to cling on to that we could win, and even though I feel Richmond do have a win in them for the rest of the year, unfortunately that win did not come against North Melbourne, which we now know was the last time we would ever see Dustin Martin on a playing field. Oh, fuck. Geelong then won a very hard-fought contest against Adelaide at GMHBA Stadium. Collingwood fell over the line against Carlton in a game where Mitch McGovern could have won it off his own boot after the siren, but failed to do so. Port Adelaide, the first team in a century to defeat the top-seeded team this late in the season, smacked fucking Sydney by the way of 112 points. I did not see that coming. GWS overthrew Hawthorn late by 2 points, and then we had Fremantle fumbling the ball against Essendon to lose by a point, and Brisbane absolutely destroyed St Kilda. So that gave me 6 out of 9. Whilst I thought 6 out of 9 was a good return, I didn't realise we would have somebody tip a perfect 9 out of 9. That might have only happened maybe once or twice this entire season in my competition. But Rob J, Pobby Tiger, coming through with a perfect round. Sir, congratulations must go to you, especially given some of the way these games ended up. Huge, absolutely huge. Great job. Special mention must go to Dan Cash, getting the 8 out of 9, almost another perfect round. And then we had a handful of 7s and 6s. I was actually within the top bracket of, the better coaches this week. So I was quite impressed. However, speaking of Dan Cash, my man Daniel P has taken a definite lead in the competition with 125 total tips, placing him 5 tips clear with 3 rounds to go. This could be Dan Cash's competition to lose at this point in time. Following up the top 10 from there, we have Mikey is a rat in second place with 120 tips. In third place, we have Dusty Fendoff 4 on 119. We have Pommy Tiger and Some Cripple tied for 4th on 118. In 6th place, we have Team Wiggles on 117. In 7th place, we have Frio 90 with 116. We have Madge Tiges and Benny Craig tied for 8th place with 115, and Saintly 12 finishes off our top 10 with 114. So congratulations to Dan Cash for leading the competition after 21 rounds. Congratulations to the rest of our top 10. Thank you as always to everybody else who has been competing, and I have made my way up to 18th spot. I am still 7 tips behind the lead, which is maybe out of my reach just a little bit, but I made up a bit of a gap this week. So, hey, maybe I can make up that gap again. Maybe. This round of football is going to be absolutely definitive for top 4, top 8 chances because we have a lot of those matchups going down. Kicks off tonight at the SCG with Sydney taking on Collingwood. I don't see Sydney getting belted by 100 points and then coming home and losing. I feel that 100-point loss is going to kick them up a gear, could turn them back into the juggernaut we saw at the start of the season. I feel Jordan De Goey missing for Collingwood is going to be huge. Their lack of defensive pressure last week against Carlton in the final term is concerning. I think Sydney win this one by 16 points. Yeah, I know I've got to choose a team first. 16 points the way of Sydney. Saturday afternoon at the Gabba, we have Brisbane taking on GWS. Brisbane locked this one up at the Gabba. It is hard to see them losing there for the rest of the year. They're going to be setting up a strong finals campaign. I feel they're the premiership favourite moving in to the last few rounds of the season. They've been impressive over the last few months, especially given they started 0-5. Huge turnaround. Blundstone Arena, Saturday afternoon, North Melbourne taking on West Coast. I'm going with North Melbourne. Having seen them live last week, their process of moving the ball defensively and switching play was incredibly great to watch. And while West Coast performed well at home last week, haven't travelled all that well this year, but both teams playing a solid enough brand that this game might actually be very competitive to watch. But I think at Blundstone, you give North Melbourne the edge. Optus Stadium, Saturday afternoon, Fremantle taking on Geelong. Geelong winning a close contest, Fremantle losing a close contest, but I think bouncing back at home, I'm going to give Fremantle the edge. This is going to be a great game to watch. However, I just think Fremantle's midfield is going to get on top of Geelong a little bit too much. We spoke about Dustin Martin retiring earlier as well. The one player I haven't mentioned yet in the podcast that has dropped earlier today, I want to highlight the fact that Tom Hawkins has also announced his retirement. Another huge loss of the competition, future Hall of Famer. But they've played without Tom Hawkins for the last couple of weeks, and they're going to have to find a way without him moving forward. So it's going to be interesting to see their forward structures and how they go about it, but I still think Fremantle's going to be too tough a tall an order for them. Saturday night, the first of two games, we have Essendon taking on the Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium. Essendon win this one at Marvel. Damien Hartwick doesn't like playing at Marvel, and Gold Coast haven't travelled well this year, so hard to pick them when their record states, that obviously you have to tip against them in this instance. The final game of Saturday night sees Melbourne hosting Port Adelaide at the MCG. Melbourne falling off the wagon a little bit. Port Adelaide coming off of a 112-point victory against Sydney. They have travelled well this year. I'm backing in Port Adelaide to defeat Melbourne. First of three on Sunday. MCG, Carlton Hawthorn. Something tells me Hawthorn's going to win this game. I think their forward press and their speed is going to be too hard for Carlton to stop. That being said, could the duo of Curnow and Mackay be too hard for Hawthorn's defensive units to stop? I don't know. I think the midfield game is won by Carlton, but I think with no TDK in the ruck, it's going to be their undoing. I think Mark Pitney, probably against Hawthorn, might have an upper hand, but I just think Hawthorn might be too tall an ask. I don't know. Just something about this game tells me Hawthorn are going to cause an upset here. Marvel Stadium, Sunday afternoon, Richmond St Kilda. I'd be inclined to go St Kilda because Max King normally tears us apart, but Max King ain't playing, so I'm going Richmond here. Richmond showed enough over recent weeks to tell me we have a win in us, and I feel St Kilda could be that win. The only other opportunity I think we have of winning in the next three, because we have St Kilda, we then play Hawthorn, which I think we'll lose. We then play the Gold Coast at the MCG, and Gold Coast haven't travelled well all year, so I think we could beat the Gold Coast in our final game. But for now, I've got to back Richmond in here because St Kilda, again, have struggled to find avenues to score some weeks. I think Richmond can capitalise on that. I'm hoping we can pick up a win here. Fingers crossed. And the final game of the round is at Adelaide Oval with Adelaide taking on the Bulldogs. And I am going to choose the Bulldogs here. However, there is speculation that Marcus Bontempelli could miss this game. If he is ruled out, I will be changing my tip to Adelaide. But I think the last time we heard Marcus Bontempelli was going to be a chance of a late out, he came out and dominated that game. And I think a lot of people are expecting the same this week. So my tips for this round. We are going with Sydney, Brisbane, North Melbourne, Fremantle, Essendon, Port Adelaide, Hawthorn, Richmond, and the Bulldogs. Again, to everybody that has competed in the competition this year, thank you so much for getting on board. And for everybody that turns out to watch these videos, I appreciate the support you guys have been throwing behind what I do here. It's been a bit of a slow burn. There's been some weeks where I've missed some uploads, but I really am looking forward to taking this channel to bigger and better heights. I've got some things planned over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing my best 22 under 22 team reveal. I'm going to attempt to do my All-Australian list, which I know is going to cause some conversation. We're going to be covering a mock draft. We're going to be doing trade talk, draft talk. Next year, the podcast is going to be bigger and better with different segments. We're going to have people getting on board as special guests. Going to be great. If you've got any suggestions for content you would like to see, continue to let me know in the comment section down below. I am happy to oblige, and I would appreciate it if you continue to hit that like button down below and you did subscribe. If you're passionate about AFL and you wanted to get on board and help grow this community to something bigger and better, do it. I know you want to. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.